All right, everyone, we have 50 minutes to go, and I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of questions around this topic, which is around AI and its impact on the society and the businesses. First of all, thanks everyone for joining us today and the lovely panel that we have. We've had so many conversations backstage, and I'm pretty sure we'll have many more. So feel free to, if you have questions, we'll definitely be waiting back later to take all the questions. But to start with, I would love to ask our panelists here about what they are doing in AI right now. If they want to share something about projects, anything that they're doing on their personal projects as well. Aparna, do you want to go?
Yeah, sounds great. Well, we at Zoom, I'm sure most of you have heard of us. We're a tiny little company that enabled unified collaboration and all of you to connect during COVID. And actually, it helped enterprises connect well before COVID. We are more than just meetings, I would say. We have an entire platform that includes a phone solution, team chat, email, calendaring, scheduling.
Right.
And even we have business enterprise applications, whether they're suited for healthcare, for government. We have a sales platform that increases the velocity of sales, helps marketing teams within enterprises focus their marketing efforts. And under all of it, it is powered by AI. And so we recently launched our AI Companion product. It underpins our entire platform. And in the last 5 months, we have been able to have about 550,000 accounts sign up for AI Companion. And the biggest benefit that we provide with this product is we offer it at no additional cost, which is pretty inconceivable to the market right now.
Right.
So if you're a paid user of Zoom, you can leverage this AI Companion. And what do? Across the platform, we enable human beings to be more productive, and that's the goal. For us, AI is not about replacing humans. It is augmenting the capability of human beings and really making them much more productive and much more efficient to unlock, even in the terms of Saudi, unlock that digital transformation for the 2030 vision. It fits right well in, so that's some of the things that we are doing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know my avatar on at least on Zoom, so which is fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Aparna. Areiel?
Hi, I'm Areiel Wolanow. I am the managing director of Finserv Experts. We're a small consultancy, and we are working with both creators and users of AI to help manage the risks and the concerns. So if you think about the concerns that people have about AI, is it safe? Are people going to lose their jobs? Am I going to be personally liable for something that, that AI does for me? What's interesting is that these fears are actually irreducible. So if you go back, so as a technologist, I think that the key in predicting the future always lies in the past. So if you go back in this instance, the technological evolution that actually is very informative of what's happening in AI now, you have to go back to the late 1800s, and the big technical transformation then was the world global logistic network was moving from sail to steam. You read newspaper articles, you read books, newsletters published by prominent people, debates in Congress and Parliament. You are seeing these exact same questions. Is it safe? Are people going to lose their jobs? Am I going to be personally liable if my steamship blows up? So the questions are irreducible, which means that you have to answer them in a way that is human, understandable, evidence-based.
Right.
So Google hired us last year to develop a risk management training and framework to manage AI risk. And the reason they hired a tiny firm like ours is that they were going through and they were trying to sell Google's AI products. Now we don't, we implement AI, but we don't need to teach Google about AI. They know plenty. But they were having a problem engaging because they would say, well, is the AI going to introduce bias? And they would answer, well, we use a tree ensemble analysis, and we prune our regressions, and we do all these things, which is mathematically the right way to avoid bias. And they were getting nowhere because they haven't addressed the irreducible fears. So what we do is we put in place systems to manage the risks using tried and true risk management methodologies, many of which were developed, they're not new tech, they're developed in the 1950s and 1960s, but use it in a way that gives companies who are concerned, who have to answer to their boards, let alone their customers, to say, we are using this in a safe, responsible, ethical fashion. And that's what we do.
That's awesome. Raul?
Hey, thank you, Ravit. Thanks for having me here. Well, I am a future designer. I run a company in Miami, the US. And when you say that you design futures, we are not predicting the future, We are not a guru with a crystal ball and say what is going to happen. What we do actually is to identify what are going to be the wide array of future scenarios where our brands have to deal with in that future scenario. And when you have to think about that, one of the biggest challenges is to avoid projecting our current fears into that future. And AI, we use our two preferred tools are, one is AI, obviously, and the second one is the sci-fi narrative. Sci-fi narrative allows us to break those barriers, bring those barriers down, and feel free to think what would be the technological impact on a different scenario. And when you think about that, you realize that things could be much different, and also that that transformation that is associated with that future start today. So AI for us is the biggest tool, the better tool that we can use, because it allowed us to see multiple options that we, the team, maybe cannot be able to do that. On the other hand, I'm a writer, and I mentioned the time factor as one of the most critical things, because to write a chapter of a book, it took like 4 months. To do the same chapter through AI, maybe it's gonna take 45 minutes, So obviously we are living in a scenario where there's some disruption inside. So to think about the future, to design a future scenario, you have to become friend with the AI, and you have to put AI on your side, and it's going to be very helpful.
That's awesome. It's getting there. We are empowered by AI for sure.
Absolutely.
Rajat?
Yeah, thank you. So thanks for being here, all of you. I'm Rajit Kotra. I'm the Group Director for Analytics, Data, and AI with Informa. Like Aparna said, I'm sure you all have heard of Zoom, and I'm pretty sure you all have never heard of Informa. And we are happy that way. We are the company who brought Leap, here. And we are basically a B2B market services and development company. And we also do knowledge services. So we bring AI conversations to you. And my role at the Informa group based in London is to drive some tangible value from data analytics and AI to make your experiences better, and also, most importantly, for our exhibitors to find the right business models and business opportunities. From an AI perspective, 1/3 of my career, so about 12 years of my overall career, which is more than 3 decades now, has been in the field of AI. And I would, call myself coming from the business side of AI, something which was not so fashionably called a few years back narrow AI. And that is basically about how do you apply some of these technologies, some of these practices in real business on the use case side from a tangible value creation perspective. I don't get too much into the research side and the academic discussions around whether we will exist or not, and whether AI should be done in that way or this way or not. I am mostly focused on, it's something we all should learn and implement and make our lives better, both at work and otherwise. And for the last few years, I've really dedicated my passion around making some of these conversations in business simpler so that I can actually have a conversation with my daughter, who's still in school, to make her understand, why should she use ChatGPT or why should she not. So really, I'm more interested in more practical conversations around how to really get value from AI. And hopefully some of that we can bring in our discussions today for you all as well.
That's awesome. Talking about value, that also brings me to another interesting question about, with the impact of AI, there are so many new job roles, so many new emerging, I would say, more technologies just within AI that's kind of coming up. So what are your thoughts around that? How do you see the job market changing when AI kind of plays a very important role in everyone's life today? Like all four of you are actually doing AI in your jobs now, as compared to which would have been very different when OpenAI announced ChatGPT. So how do you see the market moving, Aparna?
Yeah, so, I would like to echo your statement. It's all about, actually both Raul and your statements, it's all about being open to new technology, but at the same time recognizing that not everybody comes at it from the same vantage point. So, my experience in Silicon Valley, in the business community anyway, we're mostly, hot to trot to take on new technology and to be, oh, I've tried this, everybody wants to say that they've just tried the new GPT, whatever's launched or whatever the case may be, before anybody else is. I've tried the new headset before everyone else. But your customer base has a wide variety of concerns, some that they tell you, some that they don't tell you. And I would say, that is why we spend a lot of time listening to our customers and really understanding some of the concerns. And we focus on AI as an ability to augment the human being, and as I said, make them more productive, more efficient. So I'll just give you an example of how we embed AI in our product. Something as simple as our meetings. You can, if you come late to a meeting, you're 10 minutes late, it's so natural. How many times have we all gone in and said, oh, I'm 10 minutes late, but I don't know what's going on? You either just don't say anything and you kind of miss the first 10 minutes, and then you sort of get it, and then at the end you have to go find someone else, you've missed the conversation, or you interrupt everybody else. And so, we have if you have Zoom today and you're a paid customer, you can just say, catch me up into the bar at the AI Companion feature. You just click that AI Companion feature, say, catch me up. It will tell you what you've missed in the meeting so far. And you can kind of quickly read it, not interrupt everybody else, have a good sense of what's going on, and continue on your way. I mean, these are things that we embed to make people more productive. Even in our team chat feature, you get up in the morning, you have 50 chats from a group that includes people from the East, from Europe, et cetera. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm already late to work. I need to say something smart in this chat and contribute, otherwise I'm going to be losing the conversation when they all go to bed. It'll catch it up for you. It'll summarize the key points. It'll say, maybe you want to emphasize this point. You as the human can decide, do I want to participate in this way or do I not? But it just makes you that much more effective. I think how to make sure people feel comfortable in embracing this type of technology is to be really clear on what you do and what you don't do with their information. And really, it's like a social contract with your customer. We at Zoom like to give a lot of choice to the customer. And so, for example, we've said that we will not train, we have multiple approaches to AI. So for example, we have a federated model where if you, the customer, the enterprise customer, you can choose to use, or the small, medium-sized business, you can choose to use, OpenAI. You can choose to use our, private model, and we will not use your data to train our model. And we make that pledge. And then it's understanding with you what is the terms that you want. Do you want us, when we use our AI model to give you back these answers, we create a transcript. Do you want us to keep the transcript so we can help you debug? Do you want us to get rid of the transcript right away, which we call zero data retention? And then it's out. We don't even store a copy. We basically do it real time, and then it's out, so it's not even in our system. But these are types of things that you have to establish up front to have that social contract with your customer. And it only comes when you think about different use cases, different appetites for risk, not everybody is coming from the Silicon Valley sort of atmosphere where I just want to absorb everything and I'll just give my data to anyone.
Exactly.
There are varied levels of risk, financial services, government customers.
True.
And what we've realized is we have to take a flexible approach. And that is what we've been doing, and it's been resonating quite well.
Yeah, I think governance kind of also plays a very important role when you're talking about the data, which kind of, I'm in Europe, obviously GDPR kind of plays a very big role there, and I'm pretty sure you all have the frameworks for that as well. Areiel.
I think your question about how jobs change is actually a really, really critical one to understand. A job is fundamentally 4 things. It is a set of outcomes that your employer or your boss or your board or whoever expects from you. There is a set of processes or operating models that you are expected to use or disrupt in achieving that goal. And then there are methods and tools by which you do that. So take the example of an accountant before and after digital ledgers, before or after ledgers were put on computers. Before, an accountant's job was to actually construct the consolidated ledger. And that was their job. And at the end of the day, they signed the opinion that says, these financial statements fairly represent the financial position of this company. And they have an opinion that is legally binding that they're accountable for. After these ledgers were put on computers, the accountant's job was no longer to construct those ledgers. The computers did that. But the opinion that they needed to express was the same opinion. The tools and methods they did that now were different. They had to go and make sure that the computer systems were accurately recording the transactions, that there were no bugs, that there were no breakages. There's a scandal in the UK right now about 700 post office workers that were fired for fraud when it turned out it was a bug in the program that caused this, and they were fired wrongly. So to bring that forward to AI, look at the role of a doctor. The doctor's role is to see patients, diagnose what's wrong with them, and recommend a course of treatment.
Right.
Okay? AI is going to change how that's, whether you are the best or the worst doctor in the world, AI can only make you better because it is giving you access to more research, more results, more possible causes of symptoms that even the best doctor could get their head across because there's just so much going on in the world. So it's a pure net positive. But at the end of the day, the pattern of accountability hasn't changed. The doctor is the one writing the diagnosis. Okay, so your job is to have the official opinion of what's wrong with somebody. That job hasn't changed. The methods and the tools have changed. And that's exactly what's going to happen with AI and jobs.
Areiel, I'm just going to jump in here and say I 100% agree with you. It's very amusing because most people talk about I'm a recovering lawyer. Actually, I love the fact that I'm a lawyer. It paid my bills, and it's such an elegant profession. I was a corporate lawyer, but most people joke and say, "Oh, your profession is a dying profession." And I actually, yes, there are many use cases for AI to increase efficiency and productivity. But when I think of even Zoom and how we incorporate AI internally and how it could be helpful for our legal team, I think about at the end of the day, we still need that accountability. There still has to be a human being at the end who says, yep, I got this, I'm accountable for it, and I'm going to put and you can do as much, you can use as much, and this is part of our vision, you can do as much preparation as possible and make that preparation super efficient, super productive with AI, but at the end of the day, you have to have that accountability. This panel, he was saying that we had a great time backstage. We did. But we were talking about how cultures can also be very different. For example, in the kingdom, this is not a place where you just come in here and have a transactional culture. You do your prep work. You get everything done by AI. You have to come here. You have to see people. You have to shake hands. That that cultural phenomenon is not expiring, and I hope it doesn't expire anytime too for humanity's sake. And for that purpose, it's that accountability, it's that face-to-face and face-to-face meeting with the handshake. You can use all the technology in the world to make it that much more productive, to let human beings meet that many more people, to let the doctor see that many more patients. But at the end of the day, there is a lot of context for human beings.
Yeah, I think that the job market is an ever-changing environment,
right.
It's been happening since the inception of internet. So there's not a big change around that because, you know, we have to increase our capabilities every 5 years. You know, if you don't change your methodologies, if you don't change your own knowledge, I mean, you're going to be gone because the market is going to expulse you outside. But you know, here there's two perspectives. One from the organizational side, where efficiency is like the first goal to achieve through AI, and the other is the personal perception of what AI will do on our lives. And when you see, we design experiences, which is creating stories that never happened yet. It's designing a sequence of interactions between a person and a brand. And when you see the whole story, 90% of those interactions are digital. But when you weight the relevance of those interactions, you realize that the human interactions are way more relevant in terms of generating memories. So you realize that the efficiency goes along with some sort of the minimum expected. We are raising the bar of what is going to be the basics, and we need to add something else on top of that. From the personal perspective, people are afraid of losing their job. But again, this is something that always happens. I mean, when you have a job, you're always scared that somebody comes in with better qualifications than you or do your job in a better way. So, I mean, that's something part of the picture for a long time now. So it's like AI is like hiring a most effective partner. You know, like your next body that will do the job in a most efficiently way. But on the other hand, it's not that talented. Human talent cannot be replaced. So we still have room, you know, for developing people, talent, and this desire to grow, to provide value to the organization. So there's some aspects of the working relationship that are not going to be replaced by any kind of technology.
That gives us some good validation for sure, Raul.
Absolutely.
Because that's one of the biggest debates as well, right? I talk to a lot of leaders, a lot of even the people who are just getting into the job market, and they feel that, oh, AI has already replaced something that we already learning. Like talk an example about lawyer or a doctor. It's just making you smarter to do what you already have the knowledge about, and that's what I think is like the most powerful thing. And if you use it in the right way, you can go to places. Rajat?
Yeah, so I think the question you asked about, will the traditional job roles remain same, is a fascinating one. And then the other big question is to what, you know, Raul responded to was, will humans still be required? I think my take on that is, on both those things are, if you look at data purely, I think the World Economic Forum did a Future of Work survey last year, and they clearly said that 40% of the job roles will go through a significant transformation in the next couple of years, 4 to 5 years at the maximum. Now, if you step back a little bit and think about what's really happening here, you know, think of this as the 4th industrial revolution, right? We all know the first one was a steam engine. The second one was when electricity came in and mass production was, you know, the norm. Then came in the world in 1950s was the whole world around digitization. Computers started coming in, automation started coming in, and now we are in the phase of AI, blockchain, and stuff like that. In all of these revolutions, what really happened was humans did not go extinct, but the nature of work significantly changed. Significantly changed. Right? In fact, in the period of 1800s to 1850s, when this second revolution was happening when we had steam engines settle down, but electricity came in, mass production came in. In the historical context, there was a term called Engels' pause. And Engels' pause really, showed that the rules of work significantly changed. The way work was being worked was completely different in the 50 years before and after that. I think we are right now in what some people are calling raging 2020s. And I predict that by the time this ends, this decade ends, the nature of our work will be significantly transformed. And I would like to give an example which hopefully is closer to your heart as much as mine. Think of when computers came into the workplace 20, 30 years back. There were some of us who thought, well, you know what, my job will not get impacted. I don't have to learn how computers work. I will continue doing what I'm doing. But guess what happened in a few years? Every job fundamentally transformed because of the way the job was being done. And I think this is exactly what's going to happen from an AI perspective. It is not about whether my job will get replaced or not. It's more about, will I need to use AI in my job? I think in all jobs, in the very near future, it will be smarter to start learning and focusing on how you can make your job better using AI, than thinking that, you really will escape from this. So that's my personal view on that. It's better to embrace the technology of all the benefits which my colleagues have spoken about, which will drive efficiencies and customer satisfactions and all that. But remember, you can still have the value which you create as a human being. But this is not the time to think this is not for you. I think the time has come to acquire new skills and to learn how work will be done in the future. AI, some predict, is going to become the runtime of the organization. It's not about one department or one skill to acquire. It's the way every job will start getting done, or at least part of it start getting done.
That's a very good point.
I think there's data that underlies what you're saying. If you look at the percentage of people in the world living in extreme poverty, the World Bank released these numbers. From 1990, which is when the internet became commercially viable, till 2015, the percentage of people living in extreme poverty in the world fell by 70%. There's no other time in history that's happened. And there's two main ways you eliminate poverty. One is that you educate women, but the biggest one is that is labor mobility. Poverty is eliminated when people can go to where jobs are. So what the internet did was it changed the equation. Now people don't have to go to jobs, now jobs can go to people. So if you want to understand how AI is going to change the world, focus on those two big vectors of what causes poverty. One is, and this is proven, you can look at the data. How will AI change women being educated, and how will AI change labor mobility? If you understand that, then you will understand the impact that it's going to have on the global economy.
That's a very good point, Areiel. I'm going to jump into something which is around the implementation as well, because we've been talking around, okay, the impact and how the jobs are changing. But how do you see the government's implementing AI? Because it takes a lot for, the government should have a lot of use cases to even implement in their system. So do you want to share anything around how should government implement in their system and how can it be distributed? Anyone?
No, yeah,
okay.
I think that you have a lot of information about that, Areiel, but I think that governments are facing a tough situation because, you cannot rule whatever is not clearly understood,
right?
And I think we are in the understanding stage of the process. And actually, depending on the region you're talking about, that could be easy to adopt, like Finland, these kind of countries where, they are completely oriented to transformation. But there's some other regions in the world that, implementing that kind of changes in the administration would be not only complex, it would be against their internal rules.
True.
You know, so it's going to be complicated. You know, so I think we have to cross this period where governments. I mean, when you talk about blockchain, and you know that better than me, blockchain changed completely the rules of contracts. You know, with the idea of smart contracts. What we are, and if you see worldwide, what is the percentage of the countries that are implementing smart contracts, you will be scared. I mean, because it's so low.
Right.
And we are talking about that for, I don't know, 10 years? And so, I mean, we have a lot of time ahead in order to adapt our procedures, culture, and business to incorporate AI as one of the key factors in governments.
I think that it is rare that anybody in industry has a positive thing to say about regulators. But I actually think that AI, actually along with blockchain, is one of those rare areas where the regulators can actually be the heroes. The #1 barrier to investment in AI innovation is lack of regulatory clarity. So regulators are in the position where they can unlock huge competitive advantage for their country by being first to the post with clear AI regulation that gives investors confidence that if I'm going to invest in a company that is, setting up an AI business in Saudi, the government's going to accept it. It's going to let it work along, and it's going to achieve, its potential. And governments are doing things, and it always surprises me. The U.S. government, specifically NIST, which is the national standards body, actually released an AI risk management framework last year. It's not bad. Can it be improved? Yes, of course it can. It's a 1.0 and a 1.0 of anything.
Right.
But we use it in our work, and we use it beyond the U.S. because it's a useful tool, and because we use it, it engenders confidence in the result. And so we're implementing a framework that is actually put forward and published by the U.S. government. People get that, and that is the sort of work that government can do to really unlock the speed at which this potential is realized.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I actually have a lot of empathy for government regulators. It's funny, I agree with Areiel, but I also have a lot of empathy for government regulators because they have a wide variety of constituencies to manage and address concerns about. And I would say I had a conversation with a European regulator, named to go unmentioned, who was really worried about the AI Act and was really genuinely worried to say, I fear we have become super prescriptive in the draft of the AI Act such that we're not allowing for change. And inevitably, since even GPT got popular in November, we've seen multiple versions, et cetera. We've seen other large behemoth technology giants come out with their versions, names unsaid. But we've seen so much change. And so the challenge is for regulators to draft these prescriptions in a way that gives you flexibility to innovate, but not take away from the privacy, the security, the safeguards that you afford the citizens of your community. And I think that is a challenge. It's not unachievable, and as you said, NIST 1.0, it's not too bad and great, but then let's keep evolving for 2.0, 3.0, and even the fact that this regulator asked this, or this lawmaker asked this question of me, I was felt very good that they're actually thinking about this. I'll just liken this to cross-border data flows. It's not AI, but these issues exist whether you have AI or not. AI just puts it into a level of steroids. It just throws everything into steroids. Let's just say, an example of cross-border trade or data flows. Most nations, you'll see this trend, everybody wants to keep the data in-house, have sovereignty over it. They're worried about privacy. They're worried about security for their citizens. But if you are a SaaS company, the beauty of the connection from Zoom, for example, the back end, how it works is you have such great video quality. If you're in Bombay and you're in Riyadh, you can connect to your own data centers, and you achieve very little packet loss. And that's why even with very poor Wi-Fi, you can still get on your Zoom and use your video. And so we just want to make sure that you can still innovate, and you can make sure that the data transfer is very private, it's very secure, it's encrypted, all of that. But you have really good innovation and really good service level quality to your citizens. And I think that's the trick. And I have a lot of empathy because it's not easy. And I think we in the private sector need to come at it with more of an empathetic lens, honestly. Because the various governments around the world, they are trying. And I think it's heartening to see. I would say the second thing is sort of use cases for AI in government itself. We have a contact center solution, and we've traditionally thought of it as a solution for enterprises. If your favorite bank who has to, when I lose my card, I have to call and cancel, or I have to, report fraud, like contact center, basically. Well, think about, solutions helping governments reach their citizens. I have had to wait online with the IRS. It is not a pleasant experience, And I see more and more trend, especially in developing countries, to say, I want to manage my citizenry. I want to actually improve the experience of my citizenry. Obviously, it's a long process. I'm not sure that there's lots of. 20 years ago, you wouldn't say that was the goal of government, but it is moving in that direction. And using some of these technologies, thinking of governments as giant, civic enterprises, it can really change the game for governments as well. And so I would like to say I'm optimistic, very optimistic, and sort of trying to think about how to solve problems for citizens as everyday end users of a technology platform like ours.
Rajat?
Yeah, so I think I'll just, my answer to the question is really three broad areas. Regulations, governance, and skill building. I think my colleagues have spoken, very detailed about the regulation and the governance. I just want to very quickly touch upon the third important area, which I think the governments have to focus on, and I'll do it very quickly in the interest of time, and that is skill building. I think, like I said before, this skill of utilizing AI in what you do is going to become the core going forward. And I think governments have to play a major role, in their countries to ensure that they incentivize the work population to acquire these skills. And one good example I'll share with you, which I noticed recently, is the government of Singapore is coming up with a subsidy for anybody age 40 and above to get trained on AI. And I think they will have to get some 60% subsidy from the government. And I think steps like these are very important because, think about it. Younger population will understand this technology much faster probably, but people who are in the second phase of their career, I think they need to be supported, by these governments to make sure that they get subsidized, they get incentivized to equip new skills so that they can compete with the younger workforce. I think that's a very commonly overlooked aspect, but I think it's very crucial.
Very interesting point. I'm just going to shift gears a bit here in terms of, how the public who are not using AI or who are not in this space, they look at AI as compared to the people who are in this space looking at it. How do you see the reality being a little different for the public out there who are wanting to use AI in some capacity? Do you have any thoughts around that, and how can we bridge that gap to make, people AI literate? I would say data literacy was a thing, but now it's more about the AI literacy that's kind of coming and is being the talk of the town as well. So any thoughts around that?
I have some thoughts. And it's interesting, just from our conversation before, about the willingness to adopt new technologies. I have two kids. They're both boys. My 15-year-old, then 14, I swear, I think he was one of the first users of, when ChatGPT became sort of, people knew. All of a sudden, I could see him on his computer. And he was using this functionality. And my husband and I looked at each other like, okay, do we have to have this conversation with him about plagiarism? I mean, he's in 8th grade. Do we have to, have this, the school's having this conversation about plagiarism? And what we realized, I mean, even look at the use of Zoom during COVID. My 12-year-old at the time, who was, I think in 5th grade, or it was 100% Zoom, we hadn't given him a computer. And before we knew it, he was bypassing our app controls by downloading the Windows operating system on the Mac we gave him. And we didn't teach him any, I mean, I don't even know how to do this stuff. So I didn't teach him, nobody taught him. If we look at the kids of today, they are advanced, and it comes with them intuitively.
True.
And I paused for a second with my son because, I don't want him to flunk out of school and get expelled because he's plagiarizing or using ChatGPT to write a paper and gets in trouble. But I paused for a second, and we had a conversation with him where we're like, okay, do you realize what you're doing? This is not your work. And he said, yes, but I want to check what it says because I want to think differently. And so I want to get the A. So I want to think differently, and I want to check what it says. And I was like, okay. So this is coming intuitively. So I think we have to trust and let our youth experiment, play, encourage, with a watchful eye, and this is where government comes into play. And I remember shortly after that, I think it was like December, he was then on a panel in school where the teacher, in one of their, he was on one of their school meetings, he was in a panel with 5 other kids where they tried to talk in the middle school about responsible use of ChatGPT. So I'm like, okay, well then I can relax as a parent just a little bit.
Yeah.
But when your question about having people who aren't, maybe their jobs aren't suited for it, or maybe not everybody is going to be in this tech sector. Encouraging experimentation.
True.
Making it more accessible. And I think Rajit was talking about upskilling. Even here in the kingdom, they have an entire upskilling initiative for their 2030 vision. That is pretty organized and impressive. And so I think more opportunities like that to have everybody have access to these types of technologies is super helpful.
Very right.
Yeah, I think there's 2 aspects when I think about your question that that talk about. I think I share Aparna's view. We helped a client who was doing a financial inclusion project, mobile money at very, very low transaction rates into the poorest favelas in Brazil. And if you look at the official numbers, smartphone penetration in Brazil is not great. There's about 0.7 SIMs per person officially, and smartphone penetration when we did this project, which is back in 2017, was about the official numbers were about 35%. We went into some of the worst areas of Sao Paulo, and smartphone penetration there was about 95%. Everyone had them. Everyone knew how to use them. Basically, a few very, very old people did not. Everybody else had them. Why was there such a? Because all of the phones were stolen. You bought them for about $5. They were rooted Android phones, every one of them. They didn't show up on the official map, but people know how to use them. And this is an area. This is like one of the most impoverished parts of Brazil. So make sure. I mean, this is just like a broke record. Make sure you understand your customer. The other thing that I would like to see, and that I encourage, well, actually, we have it as a policy in our company, is to get over the fear that I can't let people know I'm using AI. If we use AI in a task to deliver for a customer, we tell them we use AI.
Yeah.
If we have somebody on our team who is not a native English speaker and they're using AI to improve their English prose and and make their presentations better, we divulge it. We said AI was used here. If we get past the fact that somehow using the AI to improve the quality of our work is a badge of shame because we don't know how to do it ourselves, and rather just a tool that allows us to do better, cheaper, faster, that is going to get us along that much further. And again, government plays a role because government can be the one to either mandate, recommend, or just by example, set the expectation of transparency. And AI will be a lot less frightening to people when its use is transparent.
I just want to keep it light. I'm sorry, one second. I'm just going to keep it light here. I don't even know if people realize we use AI in our virtual background. We don't keep any of your, want to know what you look like, but we just want to make sure that your head appears properly in the virtual background. And frankly, I wake up in the morning sometimes, and maybe it's not perfect, but if I stick on my virtual background, I'm ready to go. Or
yeah,
if there's
absolutely.
a dog barking in the background and I turn on my noise suppression feature all the way, you won't even know that my dog is barking in the background. These are all very everyday uses of AI, non-threatening, human, advancing uses of AI.
It's a matter of readiness and adoption. And I think that we are getting into the readiness for some areas. We are proving that every day. But, it's like when I was young, I tried to explain what was my new job to my grandmother. And I spent like 15 minutes explaining what would be my role. And she couldn't get it, And so she told me, after that long explanation, she told me, you don't have any idea what you are going to do, though, right? I was right. I mean, I didn't have any idea. So here we are. If you can have your grandmother using AI in any form, you will realize that we are ready to move forward. And believe it or not, we are there. Our parents, the older people, are using it. True. So it's becoming part of our lives, and that's a guarantee that we have long way ahead. And also the changes that we are seeing every day. Every day we have a new launch. So I mean, we are there, and then we have to be ready to unlearn.
Unlearn things and learn the new things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have to make room.
That's a good point, Raul.
So
Rajat?
I'll just take a minute on this, in the interest of time. But I think three things, very simply. Number one, we need to change this perception of the risk to my job from AI into a positive conversation. I think we've spoken enough about that today. The second is we need to, as practitioners, ensure that AI systems are trustworthy, because if people don't trust the AI systems, they won't use it. And the third, to what Raul said, I think the biggest onus is on us, as people who've been practicing AI for a while now, to make things simple, right? If Raul's grandmother can understand it, that's the test that AI is for good.
Right. That's fantastic. Keeping time in mind, I'm going to ask last two questions, and it's going to be very straightforward. So do you think AI is the next .com boom that you see, Aparna?
I think it's fundamentally different. I think it is incorporating so many different aspects of life. I'm feeling very positive and very hopeful that it enhances our future.
Fantastic.
I think if you look at, I think we have the chance to do it better.
Better. Yes.
The .com boom,
Well
as I
said.
said, improved the lives of about 2 billion people who were living in poverty, at the cost of destroying the lives of about 100 million people who were doing, who lost the jobs to the more,
Very well said.
And now you could argue that, well, we didn't know better, okay? There was so much wealth generated, we could have looked after those 100 million people. Fine, we didn't know what the sociological impact was the first time because it took us all by surprise. We know it now.
Yep.
We have
Right.
the opportunity to do this in a much better way.
Okay.
After the wireless revolution and after the internet revolution, the world is ready to enter into this new era without any fears, because we are set up to, we are already set to this new journey. So we shouldn't be scared. We are ready. Our new generations are even more ready than us, And that's the result of the human evolution, even more than the technological evolution. We learn to adapt ourselves to new technologies, and probably in 5 years, we will be talking about another technology. And AI will be on the dark side of our lives, embedded into every single aspect, and we will no longer talk about that. You know, it's going to be part of it. So we are ready, we are prepared, and we are using it. So
boom or bust, I won't comment on that. But will this change work in the future? Absolutely yes. And is this something we should ignore? Absolutely not. And my parting comment would be that generative AI won't replace humans, but humans who use generative AI will replace humans who don't.
Yep, that makes sense. Any other parting comments from our panelists? Raul?
No.
Fantastic. Areiel?
Just that I'm going to hang out after, and if anyone has questions or wants to discuss further, don't be shy.
Aparna, anything?
Use Zoom.
All right. This was great. Thank you, everyone, for attending the session once again.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.